Yeah, hello and welcome back to our first Hyper-V Amigos showcast. I don't even remember the name, Didier, and I have to look up when the last one was.
Okay, that was a while.
that's that's right. So Didier and I, we were very busy, how you call it, I don't know.
I
The
think we were
last one was
busy.
actually in December, 28th of December 2019, so more than 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back to do a showcast with my friend Didier again. And we are still Microsoft MVPs and still Veeam Vanguards. And Didier find something very interesting we can talk about. We will I promise we will do more of those because we found now a way where it's not too much work to do something like this and even stream it live
Yeah.
as we are doing now, right?
Which is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. I was not expecting to be live streaming this, but here we go. I'll roll with the flow.
You go with the flow. Okay. So Didier, what will we talk about?
We'll talk about SMB over Quic, which is a new feature you have in Windows Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition. And as a client, you can also use Windows 11. Uh, it it has a lot of benefits. Quick, you might have heard about it already for internet use. Like Google is really big into it. The most CDNs are into it, like Cloudflare. Microsoft is also has their own implementation of Quick, which is open source, and they are using it for SMB. And of course, we are SMB people. We do a lot with SMB, and that caught my attention, and I wanted to try it, and I tried it, and I tried it, and I couldn't get it to work, and I reached out to NetPilot Microsoft, and he says, wait, you need to wait for the Azure edition. And then finally I got it. And I spent a weekend in the lab really mucking about, and I got it to work. And I've been really enthusiastic about it because I can see a lot of use cases for this in the internet hybrid cloud worlds, right?
So first, let me challenge your words. I spent the weekend in the lab. I've seen what Didier has done with SMB Quick, and I don't think one weekend is enough. I think you spend a lot of time with SMB
Oh
and
yeah,
Quick.
don't underestimate me. That's one. And secondly, the weekend starts at 5 p.m. on a Friday, right? And it only
True.
ends on 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. So
Okay. So that will maybe do the trick. That's more than 50 hours, right? That's 50 or 60 hours or
yeah, and
even more.
I do admit I get some sleep.
So let's share your presentation. We
Let's
will
share the
do a bit
presentation.
of presentation, or you will do a bit of presentation, and you have also prepared a lot of demos. So
Yeah, the the
I'm
the
really
the
looking
the
forward to.
presentation is actually too long, and there's a lot of information. Well, you already know who I am. So I'm Didier van Hooyer, working hard in IT. And as you know, I'm an MVP. So Quick, you cannot talk about SMB over Quick if you don't know what Quick is. So we'll do a very quick recap, pun intended. So Quick, the Quick UDP Internet Connection used to be a name, but now it's just an acronym of a protocol that is basically designed by Google. They wanted to have the reliability and the applicability of TCP, but they wanted to make it more performant and less sensitive to congestion. They also wanted it to be secure, and that's why it actually leverages TLS 1.3, and it has a certificate, right, that creates a tunnel. So that's what makes it secure. And Microsoft has their own version of it, MS Quick, which is open source. And it is not just for internet browsers, right? It is really coming to other protocols like SMB, DNS, whatever. Imagine what people can do with this. I'm not smart enough to figure out what it's all capable of. Now, what can it do? Well, it will reduce the connection times over TLS. So if you compare TLS 1.2 with 1.3, you can see that the number of round trips has already been reduced. And with Quick, a round trip of an already existing connection is basically zero. So that makes a lot of difference for cloud scalers. If you have the size of Azure's, Amazon, Google, that makes a difference. So it also avoids the overheads of TCP because it's UDP, and UDP has been used for that before. Remember RD Gateway for video? UDP, right? Gaming uses UDP a lot to improve performance and reduce the overhead of TCP. So that's what they're doing. If you have packet loss, it's also a bit better in those conditions. Why? HTTP2 has multiple streams, but if one of the streams has lost a package, you need to wait for it to be resent. So that's called head of line blocking. Quic doesn't have that issue. The streams are independent of each other. So that also helps avoid performance loss under congestion. You can also reuse a connection. That's what we said, right? With the session ticket, the zero return trips. But you can also migrate connections. Now imagine you have phones, mobile devices, IoT that are mobile. They are going to jump from access point to access point. They might even get a new network completely. Uh, the migration actually makes sure that you don't have the timeouts and the reconnections that need to happen with TCP. So that makes it a lot more, let's say, mobile user friendly. And then Quic has a couple of modes, and one of the modes is that you can develop for it in user space, so you don't need to go into the kernel. So you know how it goes if you have to write something from the kernel. It's a potential blue screen of that risk, and it's not that easy to do. But when you're in user space, well, write an application in user space and start using it. So it makes it more accessible and easier to develop solutions. So that should help with the adoption of it. And we'll get back to that later. Now, there are some critiques about Quic, basically around security, but also around privacy. So some people would say, well, Google just invented this to be able to track you even better, right? Even if you have privacy settings that disallow X, Y, and Z, this with Quic, they can still know who you are and advertise to you. But that's one point of looking at it. The other
Do you
one from
believe
the
that, Didier?
I think it certainly has the potential, but I'm also pretty sure that is not the only reason, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's a bit like I can use the hardware in your PC, your GPU, your CPU. I can use all the identifiable parts of that and use it to track you.
True. True. But
That's
sorry,
that's
sorry for the interruption. You
Yeah,
were
no, no,
just in the
sure,
flow. Okay,
sure.
go on.
I'm just saying it because it's one of the critiques you will hear. Then there are the security critiques. If you start searching for Quic, you'll see, oh, our firewall walls are blind now, where we can't do TLS inspection anymore. We don't have app visibility and control, etc., etc. Now, there are some issues, of course, as with all new technologies, but basically that means your security appliances, the security industry needs to catch up because you're not going to stop progress. And part of that, of course, is also that it's FUD. I mean, if you Quic is based on TLS 1.3, which that has forward perfect secrecy. So that was also available in 1.2. So if they say, well, we can't look at the traffic anymore, well, I don't consider that to be security always, right? If you send me something over TLS and you record it, and 2 years later you can grab my private key and you can decode it, well, where's my privacy? And that's what a lot of security applications are doing, but in real time. You just take the data stream, they have the private key, and they they try to look at what's happening there. Now with perfect forward secrecy, that doesn't work anymore. But that's nothing new to TLS 1.3. So there's a lot of discussions there that I think are a bit based on FUD and security people overreacting. I mean, security is security, and if you can look at my data, well, there's a lot to be said there, but I won't go into the details of this. I think this is something that will be fixed, and the sky is not falling on our heads. Uh, there are some challenges to adoption, of course. Some people will say, well, I don't care that my app is 3 times faster. Everything is fast enough for me. Well, that's fine. You're not a, let's say, hyperscaler. And if you're happy, you're happy. You don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Mm.
Uh, and you might also say all those things about reconnection and migration and head of line blocking. What does this mean to me as an individual? That's fine. As an individual, and you don't have issues with that, again, there are other people out there, other use cases like IoT that have, so they are being addressed. Quic can't handle 25 gigs or higher yet. Yeah, really, that's sure. Do you really need it to be that fast today? And who says it can't handle that tomorrow? Because if you look at the link I've put in the slides, and you look at what's happening in Windows Server 2022 with offloads for UDP and UDP receive side scaling and all that, they are very hard at work. So they're making it faster and faster every day. So they're working on it.
Didier,
Then there is the
can you paste the link in the comments, please? So because
can I copy? I'm
I think you
presenting
can
right
copy
now.
it somehow.
I don't know. Actually,
Right click or something.
right click.
Doesn't work.
No. Otherwise, I can. Nope.
Okay, we will put
We'll
it
do that later.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inertia and FUD. Well, there is some inertia, of course. I was mentioning IoT, so there was a lot of potential there, but you might know that many IoT points are not really good at security, and they might not even have SSL TLS, let alone TLS 1.3 or Quic support. So that's something that needs to be addressed. And some security appliances really that are not in the middle of the path, that really sidetrack the data and want to decrypt it, have an issue. There are some technical issues with routing on the internet, with NATing and equal cost multiparting that need to be addressed, but those are all being addressed, and that will not be an issue in the future. So don't worry too much about that. But why would you use it? Why does Microsoft actually want to use SMB over this Quic protocol? What's happening? Well, think about this. You need to look at it from the user side, right? It uses UDP over port 443 and not TCP over 445. Now, if you have file shares in Azure, you want to access them, you want to map them, and the firewall is blocking 445, or your ISP is doing that, well, you're out of luck. That there is no head of line blocking is good for your performance. Those easy network changes and more stable connection, everybody who works mobile knows that challenge and will be happy with the improvements. And it's transparent for the user, whether you are working in your corporate network, in the office, or at home. Even without a VPN, the user experience is exactly the same and transparent, which is nice. Because, I mean, anybody who's ever worked in IT and had to support users with VPNs knows what I'm talking about. This isn't always fun, right? People want to work, they're not busy with the technical details of a VPN. And then from the engineering side of things, reducing the TLS overhead for cloud scalers is of major importance. Uh, Getting rid of the overhead of TCP, that is also a very interesting thing to do. And we are seeing that more and more, because TCP is what it is. It's not going to be changed dramatically, because it's used so much all over the place that changing it would be, well, a high risk choice, and it probably will never happen. So you're coming up with something new. It allows for easy development and adoption, which is also a cool thing. So people don't need to be experts on networking stacks to make it work. And it's firewall friendly because it's UDP and 443. Unless, of course, you find a corporate document, as I did, that said, oh, we need to block this because we have no clue what it is, but we'll block it. Use cases? Well, during the pandemic, that drives it home for everybody, I think, right? The telecommuters, your road warriors, the people that work from home or from anywhere, they have now access to your file shares in a VPN-free solution. Uh, Whether your ISP blocks TCP 445 or your firewall, doesn't matter. It works. So that's the cool thing. From accessing file shares, as I said, in Azure, this throws away all that, let's say, all the issues you have with that. You can just start consuming them. So kind of a cool thing to be able to do. So if you look at Quic, you look at your network driver, you have a client here, you have a file server here, you will have a firewall and DNS and a Kdc proxy. We'll get back to that later, but you have a file share. And normally in the WAN, you will have TCP 445 and UDP 443 enabled. Right? And in the cloud, probably in most cases, TCP 445 will be blocked, but this will be available. So on the internet, you will use Quic, and internally, you can select what to use. And it's not because Quic is in there now that you lose TCP or even RDMA. right? It will just negotiate and take what's most appropriate, or you can even force it to take one or the other. So you can play with that in the configuration of your server, your clients, and the tools you use to access the file share. That's all available to you. And the most important thing of all that, it is very transparent and easy because internal and external, very secure, prevents man of the middle attack. All the data is encrypted. The SMB messages are encrypted. There is nothing happening uh, around SMB or inside of SMB messages that is visible to the outside world. It is completely secure. And that's basically what I said, but in text. So we'll just skip over that. So where can we use SMB over Quic? That's an interesting question because we can use it with Windows Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition. That's the server or a client, and Windows 11 as a client. So where can you run this Azure Edition? You can run it in Azure on infrastructure as a service in a VM, or you can run it on Azure Stack HCI. And then my good friend Carsten might point out, hey, you
Yeah,
need a license
yeah,
for that.
exactly.
Right?
I was just waiting to step in here because when you talk about file servers, we or SMB shares, we usually
Yeah.
think on the file server on premise. And I was just thinking, how could I use that? So you said, of course, Azure Stack HCI. There is a possibility to run the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition, but not on a typical hypervisor like Storage Basis Direct or Hyper-V, or even on hardware.
Y-
So
Yeah.
Didier, I hope Microsoft will
Well,
bring it maybe, or
yeah.
otherwise it's an
Yeah.
only Azure play, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. And but I think Azure, of course, is a very significant, let's say, ecosystem and use case for it.
Yes,
Uh, I remember I have to put an extra image in my slides. I will go to it at the end of the demos. That will help you explain that. Some scenarios that you can use in hybrids. If you know what Azure File Sync is, right?
I
Think
know what
about
Azure File Sync is.
if you
Yeah.
start combining Azure File Sync with SMB over Quic, that means you can expose actually all your corporate data from inside your data centers via Azure over SMB over Quic to the outside world, right?
Yeah, but
There's
for
all
that
there's all
you
kinds
have
of
to. Yeah, but for that you have to sync it to Azure, right?
yeah,
So
sync it to Azure and then expose it back over the data center Azure edition to the outside world. I will show you an image of that. I
yeah,
created
and in
one.
the world where money doesn't play any role, that would be really nice, right? But imagine even we have a 2.5 terabyte file server, and I had to sync it to Azure to use SMB over Quick because so I think
Well, no,
not to
no,
be
you
critic
could,
here, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there is something missing in the picture. I want
Yeah.
SMB Quick on premise, and not only in virtual machines. I can do that with Azure Stack HCI,
Yeah.
okay, but I want it also for my file servers, right?
Well,
I understand
yeah, yeah. The good
becoming
news,
over the internet, but I would like that.
the good
And
news
I
is,
think
of
you would
course,
too, right?
yeah, of course I would. And the good news is, I see that the commands, if you start messing around in Windows Server 2022, you will find all the PowerShell commandlets and the capabilities. They seem to be in there, but they just don't seem to be enabled. So
Mhm.
maybe in the future there is a possibility there. But apart from that aspect, there's also something else. If unless you use the server Azure Edition as a client, the only client you have is Windows 11. Now I don't know about you, but Windows 10 is still going very strong, and then we're not even talking about all the other versions of Windows client. But we also know that the world isn't only running on Windows 11, right? It's running on Ubuntu, Linux. It's running on Android, on iOS. It is running on embedded systems. So I think one of the biggest challenges to adoption of SMB Quick today is actually the lack of clients to consume it also. And
But
as
that's
I
the
was
solution for that, I understand, right?
Well, there is a company, Visuality Systems, that are actually well known for their embedded SMB solutions. They have libraries in ANSI C and in Java library that you can use to develop your own solutions. And they actually, I wrote a couple of articles about SMB over Quic, and they reached out to me because they liked them, and I got to play around with demo software. And that was kind of cool to see because okay, this is just Visuality Systems. They have a couple of libraries or solutions. YNQ is the ANSI C one, and JNQ is the Java library. But I got one of the client applications, and we'll show this in a demo later. I was able to use Quic on Windows 10, and I was accessing my file share on my Ubuntu workstation using Quic. So hey, that's kind of cool. So the world is opening up, and these guys do embedded systems. So think about IoT, think about scanners, think about
That's
industrial
cool.
devices. Wherever you have an embedded system running, this can run and can use SMB over Quick.
Yeah,
And I
that
don't know
that's
about you, but I think you know people as well, because we both know one of them in Germany. But I know a lot of people who have industrial or manufacturing environments or logistic environments where still a lot of data is being sent to file shares from automated systems for
Mhm,
transport and logistics.
mhm.
This could be a solution for them to make sure that they can use that over the internet.
Yeah, but at
So
least for the client part, yeah, it would
yeah,
be
for the
nice
client
if
part.
Visuality Systems also has something for the server part.
Well, it's early days yet. This is
Yeah,
not released yet. This is so, but I mean, they're pretty enthusiastic, and they're really trying to come up with all kinds of solutions.
mhm.
Uh, so we'll see what happens in the future. I also know that Samba is working on SMB over Quick. They have to, right? So that could
The
fix.
Linux, the SMB as a
Yeah,
file
so if
server.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there could be an option there in the future, but I don't think it's been released yet. And maybe there are other players that I don't know of, but it's kind of cool. These people reached out to me, and I got to play with the software, and I'll show you the demo because I was really happy with it. I even had an Android app at a given moment where I could access my file share over the internet via SMB over Quick.
Very
So
cool.
that is
So
yeah.
let's
Let's go on. Let's
let me
continue.
do
Yeah.
one remark. If Samba would have SMB Quick,
Yeah.
it would be really. I'm searching for the right word. It wouldn't be uncool if the Windows server on premise doesn't have it. Get me?
Sure. But for example, I do not know what the plans of Samba are. Are they going to create a server, or are they going to create a client? I don't know.
Okay,
And
fair.
and 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 again, Samba is very cool and nice, but try and run Samba on an IoT device or an embedded system of a manufacturing plant. Doesn't
Yeah.
work. It's too heavyweight. It's like putting Windows on there. It doesn't work.
Okay.
So then the embedded systems come into play again. So it's early days yet, but lots of cool things happening, lots of cool companies doing lots of cool stuff with technology. And this is really becoming a hybrid world. And you will really see that when I start going over the configuration and the use cases in the lab, because you'll see we just combining cloud with on-premises, and you still need on-premises skills to make that work.
Okay, so let's see that. So
Yeah.
go on with your
So
presentation and then we
yeah.
go to the demo part, right?
Now, you'll need a certificate for your TLS 1.3. So you can use a self-signed certificate, but the problem is, of course, self-signed certificates aren't trusted. So to make that work, you will have to turn off the checking of the certificate revocation.
Mhm.
The better thing to do is use either a commercial certificate, and that could be a paying or a free one. So if you use Let's Encrypt, it's free, or I think there are even other options to get free certificates. But if you have a PKI for the lab, you can use that, and that's what I did here. Actually, NetPile did a video on how to do that, and I've recreated this video in the slides. So basically, you'll set a certificate up, a template. You will use modern versions of your compatibility settings. You will make sure that you publish the template to Active Directory so you can actually request a certificate on your file server. You will make sure the purpose is a signature. You will use a modern algorithm. So no old school, let's say, algorithms that won't work with TLS 1.3. You don't want that. Make sure that the application policies have server authentication, allow your users to request a certificate, and make sure that they can add some information about what domain names they want to use. And basically, that's it. Then you publish that certificate, right? And it's available for you to use, because now I'm on my file server and I'm requesting a new certificate. And I'm going to grab an SMB of a Quic certificate I created. It needs some more information and basically the common name and the DNS names I want to use. The ones that I have internally or externally, I put them all in there and I click apply. What do you think? I get a certificate and I'm done. I can start configuring my file server, right? That's kind of cool. Now, the file server, you can configure it in two ways, either completely manual with PowerShell and with some NetSH, or you can do it in WAC. In WAC, it is really very, very simple. I've got some screenshots about that, but I'm not going to discuss it. I'm just going to show you later, right? So WAC has made it really easy. I'm going to quickly glance over the PowerShell. So what you will need to do is you will have to grab the thumbprint of your certificate. You will grab all the domain names you want to use, and you will just use this PowerShell command called new SMB server certificate mapping to tie this to your file share. And if you want to remove it, it's as easy as that. Now, once that's done, you can actually use your file share over Quic. And what you normally do is to force it in the firewalls. You will block TCP/IP 445 and allow UDP 443, so it should work. But even if TCP is still allowed, with net use, you can say, hey, I want you to use Quic, or with PowerShell with an SMB mapping, you can also say, hey, use Quic, right? And if you start looking around a bit, and actually, if you have Windows 11 or Windows Server 2022, even not the Azure edition, and you start looking at get SMB client configuration, you will also start finding these things, right? Force SMB encryption over Quic. It's false, but you can set it to true. You can force it. You can skip the certificate check if you need it for lab testing. The thing is, of course, it doesn't work in the normal server. You have to have the Azure edition for it to work. But you can see it's in there. So maybe there's hope for the future there. SMB server configuration, again, look around. You could disable SMB encryption or name pipes. You can play with it. Again, these commands are also available in the normal server version. And if you want to force SMB over Quic, as I said, in the lab on the Windows firewall, block TCP 445, the Kdc proxy we'll mention later, and allow UDP 443. And in the lab, on my firewall, I have set it all up so I have a client that doesn't have access to the domain controllers. It's on a separate segment, but it can only reach the file share over a separate IP address, the Kdc proxy, and the certificate revocation list server. So that's what I need for the lab. But in reality, you would do this on the internet, and then you would have to do the same, make sure it can reach what it needs to reach, but it doesn't need access to your domain controllers or your corporate network to access the file share. Now, if you think about it, you're on the internet, so you have no line of sight to domain controller. So what do you use for authentication? Well, Ntlm v2. It's very convenient. It's a great fallback option. Still works. The sky won't fall on your head if you have to use it. It's not as secure as Kerberos, of course, and it's not great because telling a CISO that you need Ntlm v2 is something they don't like because they all want to get rid of it. Now, wanting to get rid of it and getting rid of it are two different things. There's very few people who have succeeded in removing it completely, I think. But there's good news. If you want Kerberos, you can actually use Kerberos with the Kdc proxy. And that brings us to that segment. What's a Kdc proxy service? Well, on any Windows server since, I don't know, 2012, I don't even remember, you will find the Kdc proxy service. It's just not configured and it's disabled, it's not running. But to know what it is, we need to go back to Kerberos and look at the key distribution center service. What does that do? Well, it's a service running on a domain controller, and it provides two services, right? It authenticates you, and it makes sure there is a ticket granting service that can get you a ticket granting ticket. Now, that is all used to mutually authenticate between the client and the server. So that's what this thing is showing you. The customer getting a ticket, granting ticket, authenticating using the authentication to go to the server, and then the server authenticating to the client. And really, in short, if you want more details, there's a lot of information about that on the internet. Now, the problem is this doesn't work on the internet. You do not expose your domain controllers to the internet. I hope you don't do that, right, Carsten?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great. So basically, the KDC proxy is a proxy that gives you access to the KDC service over HTTP 443, and that's it. Basically, it's magic. It's been used mainly for direct access in Windows clients, which has been depreciated now, and in combination with the remote desktop gateway, session hosts, etc., etc. So those are the two documented use cases where you might know this from. But you can also use it for SMB over Quic to get Kerberos, and I will show you in the lab. Now, setting this up is a bit of a challenge. It's tedious. There's a lot of mistakes to be made. Spaces make a difference. But I got it to work, and I'll run over it very quickly. Netshell is still your friend. I know it's supposed to be replaced by PowerShell completely. It's depreciated, but still not everything it can do has been replaced by something else, so we still tend to use it. So we actually take our endpoint and we add an ACL for it so it can be used by the network service. In the registry, we are going to disable the smart card and Windows Hello certificates because we're not going to be using those at the moment. We're going to be using a password. So that's what we do here. We disable these and we enable the password. Either with PowerShell or with reg commands, it's up to you to choose. Now, we also still need that certificate we used for our SMB over Quic file share. We're going to tell HTTP sys what to use when you connect. And so we're going to grab the certificate. We're going to take it into a command, and we are going to say, hey, you can listen here to this endpoint, and you will use that certificate when you connect to me. And basically, that's all what we are doing here. We are making sure that the KDC proxy knows about the certificate to use. It's a bit funky.
A bit.
Yeah. What you still need to do is your aliases, because we have multiple domain names now, right? And we want the aliases. It's a lot better than just using DNSC names. That dumb, something all old school admins will know about, I guess. We just add multiple names. And of course, the service, I said, normally it's disabled. So we want to make sure the startup type becomes automatic and you start the service. But basically, that's it. You might think, DJ, I don't want to spend an entire weekend messing with this. Well, the good news is it is now available to configure via Windows Admin Center. And we'll show you that, how to do it.
Please,
Yeah.
my friend, because this is not a bit tedious. This is tedious.
I mean, this is not the best. Way to show you how to do it. You should just read the documentation and do it, right? I've got white papers on this, articles out on this. I'll share the links so you can just read it and do it on somewhere in the lab to test it out. But you're not done yet. The client also has to know that it can use a KDC proxy. You need to tell it, hey, these are your KDC proxy servers. And that's what we're doing here, either with a group policy or with the registry. And you can also do it in the registry if necessary. There's two options to configure it. You can create multiple KDC proxy servers for redundancy. You can use another port than 443 if you might get into conflict with another service already running on that server that handles the KDC proxy, because that's the one that you need to expose to the internet. You might share the workload of a VM or a server for that. And once you've done that, when the client notices it cannot find a domain controller, it will fall back to the KDC proxies and use those. For that to work, you need to be able to reach the certificate revocation list of your certificates. If that's not possible in the lab or for whatever reason, you can actually disable that to check for it. The thing you could also do that with the Smb file share, if you remember, in PowerShell. This is nice for the lab, but in reality, you need to have it running and the checks need to be made. I have it actually running in the lab just for completeness sake. I want to test all scenarios. And once it's up and running, we'll demo how you can see whether the Kdc proxy is being used, so Kerberos is in play, or when Ntlm is being used. So we'll have a look at that. That is what we will show you in the lab. But maybe the last thing to mention before we dive into some demos is the benefit of using a Kdc proxy is that a user can change its password from his client over the internet. And might sound silly, but in this past 2 years of pandemic and people telecommuting all of the time, that has been a pretty nifty extra bonus for people to have.
True.
So enough talking already, I would say, and we're going to talk more, but now at least we're going to show you something. So let me just get away from the presentation and get into the lab. So I need to get this out of the way. What do we have here? We have our Windows 2022 Azure Edition server, our VM, and it's running. We've got Wireshark running here, or we'll have it running. I need to start it. So there we go. And let me make sure that we filter a little bit. No, 21 doesn't exist yet, right? There we go. So we're filtering on Quic. You can already see Quic traffic is happening. So that's my server. This server is actually also operating as our Kdc proxy. So watch the timestamp. The last Kdc proxy use was at 1545. We are now 1645. So keep that in mind. What we also have is a client. So this client is domain joined, but at the moment we are not on the domain. We are somewhere out on the internet. But you can see it has ticket granting tickets. Interesting, right? This is thanks to the Kdc proxy. And look at this, Kdc cold. It doesn't mention your domain controller. It mentions your Kdc proxy and the name, the FQDN of your Kdc proxy. Cool. So we have that in play. What can you do? You can just go to a file share. Oh, I can't go there. I need to go to a share. I can go in here. I can play around. I can open files, type text in files. I can save it. I can discard it. I can, nope, have to go to a share, of course. I can do pretty much whatever I want. Anything you can do within the corporate network, or if you were outside over VPN, you can do, but it's transparent. There is no VPN in play. It's all working, right? That's the cool thing. If you now look at your, let's see, let's refresh those. And we'll have a look at what we can see in tickets. So these are the ticket granting tickets. And then this can take a while. Stay with me. Whilst we're doing that, you can see it's all going over Quic. It's not TCP IP. It's HTTPS 443 UDP. Okay, and let's just do a K list now. I need to find me another file share. This one, for example. Yep, here we go. Okay, not showing up yet. We'll get back to that. Let's take a quick peek at our Kdc proxy. Here we go. You can see it's using the proxy because we have new entries from my activity, right? So this is one place where you can see that the Kdc proxy is being used. And it will just tell you also here with klist, you can look at if a Kdc proxy is being called. Now, I mentioned it would also use Ntlm if you want to. And for that, for some reason, we will not use Windows. We will go to a Unix system. So let's go to, where is my Ubuntu machine? Here it is. I will log into that with my super secret password. I can remember it. So as you can see, we also have Wireshark running here, and we're going to look at quick traffic, right? We're filtering for quick traffic. So we have two actual terminals open. One is with the application by visuality systems that will use Kerberos, and one that won't use Kerberos, so will use Ntlm. So I think I'm on the wrong one. This is the one I need. This is with the application. So first of all, again, let's do Kerberos, right? Let's go and run the application. And there it is. And you can create files, create folders. You can do whatever you want. So let's create a folder. And let's call it Smb over Quic. There we go. The folder is now visible here. We can go to the folder using the selection 14, and there I can create a file, and I can call it demo. That's it. File has been created. I can write data to it. It's just an example client application, but now running on Linux, talking to my file share over Quic, and you can see it's Quic because it's happening live here in your Wireshark. It's not TCP/IP. It is UDP over 443. That's kind of cool.
Cool.
Same thing. You will see that happen here in the Kdc proxies, that things are happening. But the other thing that we wanted to show you is we'll just access the application without using Kerberos. Sorry, the file share without using Kerberos. So that's starting up. So again, let's create a folder. Oops, that wasn't tree. I'll call it Casten SMB. I will go to Casten SMB and I will say create a file. I will call it demo again, or at least if I could type, I would call it demo. Here we go. You can open that file if you want with 6, and you can put data in it if you want to. So write data to the file. So it's going to write 50 megabits for us. There we go. And then, well, we're done here. So let's just go to 0 and close the application. 1, yeah, that's it. And program 18. There we go. And we'll just close this one as well, right? Just for good measure. 18, close it. Now
So
let's
Didier,
have a look at.
what is the difference between the two?
Well, the one was over Kerberos and the one was over Ntlm, and we'll show you
But
this
they
now.
both use Quic. It's
They
only
both
the
use,
different
yeah, they both
authentication method.
just different authentication. So
Okay.
it will work without setting up a KDC proxy if you don't want to, but then it will use Ntlm. If you have a corporate policy that says no, Ntlm is totally not allowed, you'll have to set up a KDC proxy. And I would say, even if you don't have a policy enforcing you, just set it up. It's better security, and hey, you have the added benefit that you can change your password, right? If you want to, for your Windows clients at least. But the cool thing is we have a couple of domain controllers running here, and what I did is I configured Ntlm auditing. So I'm not blocking it, but I am just watching for it. And as you can see, an hour ago we were playing a bit in the lab, but now during the demo, you have seen that I came in over Ntlm. So my Windows file server authenticated me against AD on behalf of my client, my Ubuntu client, which is called Polarbear.
Mhm.
Sorry, need to drink. So basically, that's the cool stuff I've been playing with, and I'm working on some solutions around this. And let me grab something to demonstrate this. But I need Visio, I think, for that. Let me see what I can find. I think this might be a good one. Hang on, bear with me. The live streaming caught me a bit out of off guard. Let's put it that way. Come on.
You don't have only private stuff on there. It's also some business stuff, right?
Yeah, and private stuff I'm working on, and for some reason I don't want to put my entire life on the internet.
Why not? So show us the video. Do you have it?
Yeah, I've got it. Hang on, it's coming. So here you go. Let's put that in presentation mode, or what is it called? So actually, if you have your file servers on premises, right, and you set up Azure File Sync, so your files from your offices or data centers get synced to the cloud. You can backup them in the cloud if you want, but there in the cloud, you can run your Windows Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition servers, which expose SMB over Quic if you want to, and then it can be used from anywhere, from Windows clients, Windows 11, or from Microsoft, but potentially with something from visuality systems, you could, Linux client, mobile devices, Android, iOS, IoT devices, printers, sensors in logistics, transport, manufacturing, finance, medical devices, scanners, automation, aerospace, you name it. All verticals. I once saw the numbers and I can't recall them about the tremendous amount of smart devices in the world today in all verticals of industry and business. It's fascinating and amazing. But there are still people, even if we are in a cloud world, that need file shares. There is a reason why Azure Files exist. There is a reason why Microsoft does this effort. There is a need, and I think the biggest challenge now is getting people to be able to access to SMB over Quic, and that's why I think that opening up that ecosystem is so important. Right? That's how I see it, and I hope to see that Microsoft and also Samba that they come up with more clients and more supported clients to make it happen.
And
And
servers.
servers, yeah, and also potentially, possibly somewhere in the future, I don't know where, that Azure Files itself, without having to use a server in a VM, might support SMB over Quic, right?
Mhm.
So
You
that's
teased us with Windows Admin Center
I
because
teased
what
you
you
with
showed
Windows
was
Admin Center.
really,
Let's yes,
yeah, it was really
let's go there. Let's go there.
hardcore.
It's here. Here it's running. I'll drag it into view. So here is my file server, Y2K22 Azure, and the file server has settings here below. And the first thing you see is file share. Okay, that's interesting. SMB1 isn't installed. Of course not. We
Good.
would never do that. This is just a big wink to NetPile. He's very proud of us right now. You can say the same things you could do in PowerShell. Remember, you could say SMB signing or encryption, that you can turn it on or off. You can enable or disable SMB3 compression if you want to. Also new in Windows Server 2022, by the way. And you can configure SMB over Quic. And this is new since a couple of releases of WAC. You can now also enable or disable the Kdc proxy in WAC. And if you look at WAC, you go to Edit, it will pick up the certificate that you requested and have installed on your file server. It will do what we did in PowerShell. It will allow you to select which DNS names you want to use. And normally that was it for enabling SMB over Quic. It is that easy and simple in WAC. But now you can also say, hey, I want Kdc proxy service enabled. And you just enable it. You tell it what port to use. And basically, you're done. So all that messing around with Nutshell, if you don't want to, well, it's not required anymore. And here you can see what you could do in PowerShell as well, enable certain features of SMB. But that's it. I actually could not believe how simple it was in WAC, right? The only thing I'm not sure about with WAC is if you want to put your KDC proxy on a different server, if that is already supported or not. There is a little bug in here. It is running. You have seen it work. But for some reason, if you did it manually, it doesn't pick it up that it's enabled. But if you go to edit, it says yes, it's enabled and it's running. But I've given that feedback this week to Microsoft, and they are looking into it. So that's being fixed. But this is the WAC experience, right? And isn't this just what WAC is supposed to do? Make life simple and easy?
Yes, true.
Yeah. Well, I think what you saw very quickly passing by me ranting like a maniac about how to set it up, well, this is it. It doesn't get much easier.
Yeah, except you have to have the certificate, of course.
Yeah, but the
Maybe,
certificate is some. Yeah, but certificates is something that people always struggle with, right? And you have to find out which kind of certificates you need for what purpose. Remember Exchange with your subject alternate name certificate when that came in the market, and you needed that. People were confused about it. This is just something people learn and will work out.
true. Yeah.
But
Okay,
that's
cool.
that's basically, yeah, the demo environment, and you can
So,
reproduce this yourself at home. Go for it.
yeah. So
Because you have good
you
news,
would
right?
use it. The use case would be if you are external and want to access a file share either in Azure or on premises, you would use Quic for only external use, or would you also use it internally
You
as
can use
an
it. You can use it internally, but then your use case would be why do I need Quick internally? Maybe I have a lot of mobile users and I'm in a rented office space with wireless provided by, let's say, some random IT company that doesn't really care about me, and I have issues with reconnection and etc. etc. Then Quick might help me internally.
Mhm, mhm,
And when I'm on the road, it's all transparent to me. Whatever I was doing at my office in the building, I can do on an airplane. I can do at home. I can do in a meeting room with a customer. I have complete transparent access. I do not need to mess with VPNs. Uh, you might say, oh, I have very smart users and they know all about VPNs. Yeah, sure, you're very lucky. But all these people uh, who work for 10 customers and they have 10 VMs with different VPN clients and all that mess. You might not be so eager to use a VPN on your own system for getting to your own files because you're already connected to a customer, right?
mhm. Yeah, I
So
have the problem if I open one VPN, another is maybe not working, and I always
yeah,
struggle
yeah,
with it.
that's what I meant. But then your SMB over Quick would still work.
Yeah.
Right? It just goes over the internet. So there's all kinds of use cases for this. But the most important thing is that, well, it's firewall friendly. Uh, you can use it anywhere, and it's just a file share access transparent.
Mm.
And I think a lot of use cases also will come from industry, manufacturing. I know systems that scan shipping data and put it on file shares, and they would like to go to the cloud, but they can't because they have to be able to access a file share. And TCP 445, nah, not gonna happen. Well, this is a solution for them,
Mm.
right? And even and in hybrid scenarios with the combination with Azure File Sync, also very nice, right?
Mm. I have another question because I know you are a big fan of two-factor authentication, and we turned that off. So, have you hope that it's possible in the future to use that, or do we
Two-factor
have to?
authentication for file shares.
Yeah,
Oh, there is.
and even you have to turn off Windows Hello, so
No, no,
all the
you don't
good
have
new
you
security
no
stuff.
no no you don't have to, right? Uh, but Windows Hello only works on a laptop that supports it with the correct operating system.
Mhm.
And I'm yeah, call me cheap or whatever, but I still don't have a device that supports it. So what am I doing? I am using either a Duo dongle or a Phytian FIDO2 dongle with biometrics to do or my phone. But there in the lab, I just wanted to work with a username and password. I'm not saying that you can't use it with something else, but I haven't played with it yet, trying to get that to work.
Mhm.
But the entire discussion about MFA for file shares has been going on for quite a while, and it's a bit of a complex discussion because how are you going to do that, right? I mean, you want to access a file share and you have 300 file shares in your company. you want to do MFA every time you navigate through your folder to a different share? Do you want to how long should that session last if you want to have it enabled globally? I mean, MFA is just one tool in the toolbox, but it doesn't make it a solution that works for everything. But consider this: if you have MFA on your Windows client, right? You want to log in, you have to use Windows Hello, for example, or or username password with a with a duo, and you have to do two-factor authentication. At the moment you get in and you have a Kerberos proxy, well, you've used two-factor authentication to get into your machine, and then you use Quic, but you have already been authenticated, and on that authentication there was two-factor authentication. So it doesn't per se need MFA on the file share itself, but that's a whole different can of worms we can open up. I know there's people that would put MFA on everything, but you also have to consider this about MFA. It is something that users consume, but what about automation? Right? If I have IoT devices that want to connect to an SMB file share over Quic, they can't reach for their phone. They can't put their finger on a dongle. They can't put their face in front of a camera. It doesn't exist. So different use cases, different authentication needs and requirements and capabilities. The biggest thing that MFA is there to do is to prevent your credentials, if they leak, from being abused. It protects the keys to the kingdom, but it's certainly not the only layer of security or just one single solution that can fix all our security needs for all use cases, right?
So one final question. I think we are nearly at an hour now, 56 minutes. So what has to happen that SMB over Quic will go mainstream? Because in the moment it's new. I think it's a edge case scenario because it seems a little bit complex, yeah. And I know you love complex. Then you can
Not
write a lot of blog posts and talk about it. But to go mainstream, it has to be much easier. Or
Well, I
what
think
is
I think
hindering that?
I think people just need to learn about it, and it has a certain amount of complexity to it. But let's face it, the first time you set up Active Directory or the first time you set up RD Gateway, it also has complexity. Or an NPS server or ADFS, this is just a learning curve. That's one. Secondly, I think companies that have the use case to work with file shares, and I mean this, file shares are not dead. This is the age of the cloud for sure, but they are not dead. If they were dead, Amazon wouldn't be so popular with their file shares. Azure Files wouldn't exist. NetApp wouldn't be investing so heavily in trying to enhance all those file capabilities in the cloud. So for some reason, people still like to use files. Now, if I can tell you, you can use SMB as a protocol to access your files, just the way you always have, and you would be able to integrate that with your existing applications transparently, right? You don't need to port them to some REST API. I'm not saying it's the one solution that will fix all needs we ever have, but for all those use cases where SMB is the easiest and the best solution for the job at hand, but you are faced with the fact that you just can't enable 445 TCP over the internet, that's asking for a disaster. Well, this is your solution.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm not quite on the same page that you are. This is the age of the cloud. I'm too many times at customers who have still so much stuff on
Oh,
premises, and there are a lot of
the
file
age of the
servers.
cloud does not mean that. It is the age of the cloud in terms it is humongous and it is ubiquitous, but uh, there is, next to the cloud, there also exist all the hybrid scenarios, all the on-prem scenarios, all the edge scenarios, right? We've been talking about
Yeah.
IoT sensors. It all comes into play. And I mean, you always have to look at it from this part. Things disappear in IT, but they disappear at a very, very slow rate. While new things are being introduced at a very fast rate, Half of them die before they get to the age of 4 or 5, so to speak. But there is a tremendous churn in the innovation, and everything that has been adopted and people have used, let's say, all over the globe in massive amounts, it might die out over a very long time span, but it takes such a long time. I mean, we still have mainframes.
My
Have you have
friend,
you
my friend.
have you seen the commercials from AWS with
No.
with the mainframe migration track, so you can easily migrate your mainframe workloads to the cloud, etc. I mean, do
Yeah.
you remember that we were all going to do that with .NET? There was even Fortran for .NET at a given moment or something. I mean, but they are still there, the mainframes. So I mean,
Yeah, I
uh,
Didier, let me add something. I want to remind everyone that next year, Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2, and I think Windows 8 and Windows 8 1 will be not supported anymore. So times flies
time
by,
flies.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, and
But yep.
so I know so many customers who still have Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2, and maybe even 28, 2008
Oh,
R2,
absolutely,
and
absolutely. But
so
I call that management failure.
reality.
No, management failure. I mean, I am always astounded by the amount of large enterprises that have uh, change boards and ITIL and all kinds of CISO and security teams, and if you count them all together, it's dozens to hundreds of people. And after 10 or 15 years, you still have 50% of their workload running on Windows Server 2008 R2 or 2012. And then you have to ask yourself, this isn't working, is it? Whilst I see smaller companies that are a bit more agile, they are running everything on Windows Server 2019 and 2022. I had an entire domain running on Windows Server 2022 by December 2021.
Yeah, yeah, and I know
Yeah,
Didier,
yeah.
you are always bleeding edge. I know that, but
No, no, no. That
let me
that
add
that that
something.
that
Let
is
me add
that is
something. Didier, let me
yeah.
add something. So you know I do a lot of Azure Stack HCI, right?
Yes.
And we have now the actual version is Azure Stack HCI 21H2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the version 20H2, the version that was the right version before the end of October last year,
Hmm.
um, will only be supported until April 2022. So in 2 months, support will end.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of vendors, I know by name Dell and Lenovo, who are not supporting Azure Stack HCI 21H2 on their hardware yet. So they
Okay.
will support it, of course, but they're not supporting it yet. System Center is not available. System Center 2022 is not
Mm.
available yet, and you
Yep.
need that to manage Server 2022 and Azure Stack HCI 2120 H2. Azure Backup is not working with Azure Stack HCI 21 H2. So, for customers it's hard, but even for vendors and even Microsoft themselves, they can't keep up with this
That's yeah.
cadence, right?
Yeah. 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 But that's
So,
that's
and
that's
I
the
get that a
yeah.
customer is a little bit reserved about the new stuff. So,
Sure.
give them a year or half a year, and then they should start to
Yeah.
think about it. Yeah.
But that's
You
that's
know
that's
how many
some
people get
yeah.
burned that always use the new stuff.
Yeah, but you have to use the new stuff with a caveat, right? I,
Yeah.
I I do not jump into the new stuff without first having tested the hell out of it. That's one.
Yeah, that's
Really,
you.
that's something you need to do. But really, I mean, I'm saying it can be done, and you have to do it because I have really no compassion for people that can't change an OS over a period of 10 years. I'm sorry. I'm like, there's something wrong.
I,
On
I'm
the
with
other
you.
hand,
I'm
on
with
the
you
other
there.
hand, on the other hand, I will acknowledge and really, and I always say this: the fastest things change, the shorter they last.
Mhm.
And things are changing so fast. I mean, it's unbelievable, and they have a very short lifespan sometimes. So, right, everybody moves to new technology. Sometimes there's a huge adoption, sometimes, let's say, a lesser of an adoption, but people moved. And then they get the notification, hey, this is the new shiny thing, and this is the new legacy already, right? I mean, the cloud is already full of legacy. But that change rate is something that not only poses a problem for customers and for vendors, like you mentioned, but also for everybody else. Because, and I mean, look, you're an IT manager of a company. I mean, you used at least to be able to plan for 2, 3 years, maybe even 5 if you were really good at what you were doing. But now 5 years is an eternity, and the world changes in 5 years. So, and you have to try and build a product, make it profitable, and all within a very short time span. You have to educate your people. You have to, train them. You have to train your customers. You have to train your vendors. They all have to collaborate. That takes time, inevitably. But if your product only lasts for 2 years, that's a lot of effort for a very short period where you can make money with your business or your product. So it's a challenge all over the board. Human
It is.
beings were not designed for this change rate. And I know it would be nice if we were, but the reality is we probably are not. And
Yeah,
it's
at
going to
least
be.
not in our age, right? Maybe the young people the, are can
I
easier adapt to the change. I can't. I'm
oh
mid
I
50 now.
oh my God, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I have seen that entire farce of what they call digital native.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Don't go there. Don't go there. Let's quit this.
okay. Do we have any
Let's
questions actually? Do,
wrap
do we
up
have
this show, and
did
we
we
can
get
talk
questions?
offline.
Did we get questions? That's the
No,
quick question. No
I think
questions?
we had some viewers. I saw up to 6 live viewers, and
Wow.
of course, this was our first time to do our show live. Next time we will announce it properly.
Next time you will tell me about it.
Yeah. It was really on short notice, but next time, and I promise we will do more Hyper-V Amigo showcast, because I'm enjoying talking to Didier and showing some stuff, and there is so much new things out there. We can show some Azure Stack HCI stuff. We can show some Windows Server 2022 stuff. There's also some new things there. Even in Hyper-V, I found some little new things in Windows Server 2022 that are not in 2019. At least one, and we will talk about that maybe another time, right?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, my friend. It was a pleasure to do another Hyper-V show. Amigos show with you. And even Hans Wredewort said greetings from an old Hyper-V amigo, but
Ah,
I don't see him here. I saw it on LinkedIn. So
I saw Philip Curtis from Malta. That's been a
yeah, and
while.
Heike Jung was also
Michael Young.
sending
Yep.
his greetings. So
So
I
we
can do
you
something
see,
crazy. I can show the commands.
look at that.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Hans didn't do it on YouTube, so I can't. Or this was even on Facebook, but LinkedIn I can't share. Yeah, it's not my LinkedIn account. Okay,
Okay,
so
good.
nice talking to you again, and we have some exciting stuff in the pipeline with some backup things, but we are not allowed to talk about it yet. So I'm looking forward to that, and maybe then we will do. At least then we will do another Hyper-V Amigo
There
showcast,
is
right?
there is no shortage of new fun technologies to play with.
No,
That's for sure.
and this is so easy. We just grab StreamYard and do it live, and then we have also recording. So we will do that again, maybe in a month or so.
Okay. Cheers.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye Didier.
Bye bye.